Today I'd like to talk about how long it will take from initial arrest to the sentence, because a lot of foreigners who happen to commit crime, they're willing to just get it done and over with and leave the country, and it's quite important for them to know how long they're expecting once they get involved in crimes in Korea. So I just want to assume the fact that we as a lawyer, I mean, once you retain a lawyer, you're gonna try just about everything to be released. So I will start from the day one where you get arrested. There are several types of arrest, but I'll just assume like emergency arrest. Once you're arrested, you will be escorted to the police. They could run interrogation immediately after you get arrested, or they could do it the following day. They have right to arrest you for 48 hours. So it could be the day you got arrested or the following day. So your interrogation will be done in 1 or 2 days of time period. Within this time period, within 48 hours, they're going to decide whether they want to file for the detainment warrant. This means that you will be locked up for quite a while. So if they decide to go for the detainment warrant, they will file it within 48 hours, and you will be able to hear whether the detainment warrant has been passed through the prosecution, because the police file the detainment warrant and the prosecution has to agree on it, and they will, if they agree, they will pass it on to the court for detainment warrant review or hearing. It really depends. So if the prosecution decide to reject it, then you'll be walking out on that day, somewhere around, well, it depends on like what hour that you got arrested, but within 48 hours you'll be walking home free. But let's say prosecution decide to pursue, and detainment, they're gonna pass the file to the court, and your detainment warrant hearing is scheduled within 2 days. Within 2 days, because the court needs to look at your file for 1 day, and they're gonna schedule it on the following day. So let's say, assuming that the prosecution decide to pass the file to the court on Friday, you get Saturday and Sunday off, and Monday the court is gonna look into your case, and Tuesday your detention warrant review will be scheduled somewhere around 2 p.m. If it is in Seoul and you're not if it is in Seoul, it will be somewhere around 2:30-ish, something. And your hearing will be done in a quite swift manner, and the court will decide whether the detention warrant needs to be issued on that day. So you'll be able to hear, like, if it is early, it will be like somewhere around 7 p.m.-ish, late 9 p.m.-ish. How do you know? The police is gonna come around and they're gonna exercise the warrant, which means they're just gonna give out the slip. The warrant has been issued, and they're gonna make you sign some papers. So from that moment, once you're detained, the police, in theory, can hold you up to 10 days, but in practice, they wouldn't do it. Once the detainment warrant is issued, they're gonna press charge. They're gonna move the file to the prosecution within 1 or 2 days. So it will be very expedited. But if you, in between, if you file for the legality of detainment warrant, it will add 1 or 2 days. So let's assume that your detainment warrant issued on Wednesday, and on Thursday you're gonna file for the legality. And if you file it, they're gonna schedule the hearing for the legality on the following day, on Friday. So it's gonna add 2 days if you file for the legality of document. Legality of detainment warrant. Legality of detainment warrant rarely works in practice. I think it only works if you fail to settle when you had your detainment warrant issued in the first place. But in between time, you file for the legality and you earn like 1 or 2 days, and you settle. Somehow you settled, and there's a big change in circumstances, special circumstances. That could only be accounted for. That is the only case where you might have a good chance with the legality of detainment warrant. Anyway, if you want to try, you could still do it. Legality of you can file for the legality. After that, it's gonna be rejected, and it takes another 1 day for the file to move down to the police station, and police station needs to move file back to the prosecution. So you're gonna stay another 2 days, 1 or 2 days at the police station, and then you're moving to the big prison, not the proper prison, but detainment center. And once you're moved to the detainment center, which also means the police file has now moved up to prosecution, and prosecution needs to decide whether to press charge, whether to give you deferred prosecution, which is rarely the case when you are detained, and whether they're gonna do for the fine, go for the fine, which we also call it like summary order, which means you plead guilty and it's minor crime, and they will just let you go with a paying fine. But it's rarely the case. If you are detained, they're just gonna press charge anyway. So prosecution, in theory, has 10 days to decide whether to press charge or not. But in reality, and they can extend another 10 days in theory, but in most cases where foreigners are involved, the case is quite simple. So they're gonna press charge within 2 to 3 days. Sometimes they do it on the same day. They sometimes they call you in and they ask you whether you plead guilty, and if you say I plead guilty, is there anything more to say? You say nothing, I regret, I'm very remorse, I'm very contrite, so on, so on, so on, and they're just gonna press charge. And once they press charge, now the case is moved up to the court. And when the court has received the file, they're gonna set the first hearing within 2 to 4 weeks of time. It really depends on how busy the court is. If it is in Seoul area, yes, it's difficult to be scheduled like within 2 weeks. But if you're down south where it's not so crowded, it will be scheduled quite quickly. And on your first hearing date, if you're gonna plead guilty, I regret my wrongdoing, so on, they're gonna schedule sentence date in 2 to 3 weeks. So all in all, if it is very expedited, it's gonna take 2 months minimum, or it could extend it to 4 months. It really depends on how busy the court is. But once you get your sentence, which could be fine, maybe a few months with probation, then you will be transported back to immigration office. They have this center, protection center, we call it. And there you will be interrogated again. they're gonna ask you like simple stuff, like, and they're gonna make you sign this paper that you can't enter Korea for next 5 years or so on. And once you submit ticket, airplane ticket, flight ticket, then you will be able to leave the town. You'll be able to leave South Korea permanently. So from the day you got arrested to the day you get expelled from South Korea, expect somewhere around 2 to 4 months. Your pain will be over within 2 months or within 4 months. It really depends, but that's how it goes, okay? So if you have more questions regarding your timelines or anything, feel free to ask, and thank you for listening.